In the second video in our FASTsearch series, we'll talk about the results page filters. Specifically in this video, we'll talk about what filters are available and how can you actually use those filters to narrow down the results and find what you need. Here we are back on the results page from the search we did in the first video for the phrase online learning. Now all of our filter options are in the column on the left side of the page. And the way these will work is when you click on a filter on the left, it will automatically update the results in the center of the page to reflect the choice you made. So the first option here is refine your search. You can see a lot of these are self-explanatory. You might wonder what's the difference between choosing scholarly and peer review and just peer review. Well, peer review is a bit narrower of an option. FASTsearch has to know that work was peer reviewed to categorize it that way. Scholarly and peer review is slightly more flexible because it will include things like books from scholarly publishers as well as peer-reviewed materials. Below that is our content type filter. This can be very useful because you will often have an assignment that requires a certain number of peer-reviewed journal articles, or perhaps you need to find a sample dissertation, and this is where you can limit by content type. So let's take advantage of a couple of these before we look any further. I'm first going to select scholarly and peer review, and here you can see my results are automatically updating. Beyond that, I'm actually just going to limit it to the journal article format. That's all I want to see right now. And so here you can see after applying the scholarly and peer review filter and the journal article filter, now the only things in my results page will match those requirements that I've set. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of this column before we talk about subject terms and discipline. So down at the very bottom, this is where you'll find the language filter, and they have it collapsed, so you just need to click on language and that will review a list of options. And if you don't see the one you're looking for, you can click more to see a full list. It always just shows you the top hits first. So if you need to limit by language, you have that option. Again, just make a selection, it will automatically update. In addition to language, also near the bottom is the publication date filter. Again, you might find yourself completing an assignment that requires articles from a certain time period, or you might be researching a technological topic that requires very current information, so these publication date filters can be really useful for that. There are 3 different ways you can limit by publication date. You can use these sliding bars to choose a beginning and an ending date on a timeline. You can type in a date range, or you can use these links that are already given to you. One word of caution about the links is they are incredibly literal, so last 5 years will show you today's date 5 years ago and forward. If you want a little more flexibility, I find one of the easiest options is just type in the starting year, so maybe I want to see works published in 2013 or more recently. If you leave the ending box blank, FASTsearch knows you're looking all the way up until the present. So I'll just press enter, and now I will only see works published in 2013 or more recently. And you can see that reflected here in the results list. 2016, 2018, 2016. So I know that filter worked. Now we'll take a look at the discipline filter. And as the name implies, it lets you narrow your results so that you're only seeing those that fall within a certain discipline. This is not an exact science. Obviously, there will be some overlap. FASTsearch is trying to look at the publication title and some of the indexing details to say, oh, I think this falls within a certain discipline. And it does a pretty good job. The one caution I would give with the discipline filter is to consider whether your current project might benefit from seeing multidisciplinary perspectives, or whether you really do need to narrow in on a certain point of view. If you do need to narrow by discipline, again, you can make a selection from the list. If you don't see the discipline of interest, click on more. This will bring up a full column of options. And here I could scroll through and choose whatever discipline I'm interested in. So perhaps I'm interested in legal perspectives in online learning. I could click law. Now, when you have this extra column open, when you've clicked on more, your results will not automatically update. The reason for that is you can click on as many things in this column as you want. So FASTsearch is waiting for you to tell it that you're ready to go. So once you've made a selection, scroll back to the top of the column, and you will see Apply. So I can click Apply. And now I can see my choices have taken effect, and there's the 110 results that I'm left with. If you don't like how a filter has functioned, or you're trying to get back to your original set of results, you can just click on whatever selection you made again to deselect it. So if I click on Law here, now it's deselected it, and I am back to those original 15,000 plus results I was working with. So it's always easy to unselect something if you don't like how it functioned with your results. So lastly here is the subject terms filter. If you're not familiar with subject terms, they're a little different than keywords. So keyword searching is what we did when we created this search, where we just went and typed some terms into the search box. And when we search by keyword, the search tool like FASTsearch is just looking for those matching keywords somewhere in the document. Subject terms are a bit more controlled. They're usually assigned by the people who create databases, and they're really trying to say, regardless of the keyword, this is the subject that the article is about. So even if someone wrote using the phrase online learning, a database might say, well, the subject is distance learning or distance education. So they can be very precise, but sometimes you can't predict them because you don't know what database will use what term. So it's nice to just use them as a filter after the fact. So again, let me click on More so I can bring up the full list of subject terms available. And this is the full list, and it will usually be fairly long, so you'll need to do some scrolling. Now, in my case, let's imagine that I'm interested in how we develop the curricula in online learning. What I can do is scroll through the subject terms and look for a matching or similar term. So here I'm scrolling down through the C's, and I can see there's both a curricula and a curriculum subject. Since that's what I'm interested in, I'm going to click on both. I think they'll both be relevant. Again, just like we did with discipline, once we've made our selections, I'll come back to the top and press Apply. You can see it says 2 because I chose 2 subjects. And now again, the results page is going to update, and I'm seeing the 897 results that either have this curricula or curriculum subject assigned to them. So the subject terms filter can be a nice way to narrow in on what you need. It can be a nice way to just look through different language assigned to the results and think of some new search terms. So if you're sort of struggling to narrow in, you might want to consider using this filter. And of course, the other way to narrow in is to add in additional search terms, and we'll talk about how to do that when we look at the advanced search page. That concludes this video. Coming up in the next video, we will talk about how to use the advanced search page.